Truth Radio. It's Tuesday evening and it's now 6:46 p.m. UK time. This is the spiritual discussion program. Apologies for the very late start tonight. It was out of our control. I'm Saad in southeast London, and now it's dark here in London, but it's been mild. The weather has been mild today. With me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you, and how is the weather where you are?
It's been very mild today, and one is fine.
Good. So, welcome, listeners, to this spiritual discussion program. Apologies for our delayed start. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is In Simplicity Lies Greatness. In simplicity lies greatness. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially The message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for discussion tonight is In Simplicity Lies Greatness. In simplicity lies greatness. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way you can contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, and that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down the page, homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat, and you can write in a message in there as well to contact us. So, Gregory, as you know, I like to look at the meaning of the words in our topic for discussion, which is tonight, in simplicity lies greatness. So the first word there, or the first key word, is simplicity. And in the dictionary, I have two meanings there given. So the first one, it says the quality or condition of being easy to understand or do. And the given example there, for the sake of simplicity, this chapter will concentrate upon one theory. So, Gregory, what do you say about this definition?
The example you gave, one theory, that speaks volumes. Because with that one theory, there is the clear picture of oneness, of unity, uncomplicated.
Right. So that's a good definition. It means, I presume that's. And what about the meaning given, Gregory? The quality or condition of being easy to understand or do. Is that also like a good definition there?
Not really.
Okay.
Because doing nothing is easy. But that doesn't make it simple.
Right. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying there. Yes, doing nothing, you can't achieve much with that. So I'm not going to ask more on that just now because we have more to talk about. So the second meaning in the dictionary for simplicity, it says the quality or condition of being plain or uncomplicated in form or design. And they give an example there, the grandeur and simplicity of Roman architecture. So, Gregory, what do you say on that meaning?
We already mentioned that particular word, uncomplicated. So, to some extent, that is usable.
Right. Okay. So we will continue. And so again, listeners, the topic we are discussing tonight is in simplicity lies greatness. And we're looking through the meaning of these words. So the next word there, it says lies. And here in the dictionary, it says two definitions are given there. Lies, so the meaning of lies, of a person or animal, be in or assume a horizontal or resting position on a supporting surface. So, and to give an example, the body lay face downwards on the grass.
Of course, we cannot use that.
Yes, I thought so. It's more like a geographical definition rather than the meaning of this phrase that we are using. So, any case, I will continue. The second meaning, it says, for the word lies, be, remain, or be kept in a specified state. And to give example there, the abbey lies in ruins today. Is that any use for us there, Gregory?
Very, very little.
Right. Would you be able to suggest something better there?
The word lies, that concept is used as a framework. So the framework of simplicity, so that's what is qualifying.
Right.
The bedrock of simplicity.
Yes, as we know, many times when we use words, go through individual words within a topic, by themselves, individuals, if you look at the meaning, it's not, doesn't help. But when you look at it as a whole concept, then it does make sense. So I will continue one for the last word, which is greatness. And in the dictionary, it says, that's not what I was expecting, the quality of being great, which eminence or distinction. And the example they give is Elgar's greatness as a composer. So, is that useful for us, Gregory?
Again, these are just pointers to what greatness is.
Okay. All right. So we will explore this further. Now, again, to remind us, the topic is in simplicity lies greatness. So obviously, those words mean simplicity is something very, how can I say? And of course, it's great. That's what they're saying, but something to look up to. But some people think simplicity, they should look down upon it. And as if it's for children. I don't know if that's maybe the reasoning for it. So, Gregory, is there any sort of negative points about simplicity that any reason why somebody should look down upon simplicity?
Those who look down upon simplicity, strictly speaking, do not yet understand what simplicity is.
Right. Okay. So when I give the example of children doing simple things or thinking in a simple way, is that, so you could say, I don't know if that should be called childish. And when we're adults, we're supposed to, let's say, deal with more complicated matters. So maybe that's, is that a wrong understanding of the word simplicity there, Gregory?
Well, the thing is that you yourself use the words correctly and then bring something a bit more complicated. There's the child, the way the child tackles a task, tries to proceed in a very simple way, in a step-by-step manner, based on what it knows, not what it doesn't know. And it takes one step, a whole step before another. That is the simplicity that is meant, because the wholeness, the framework of wholeness, that's the way the personality is able to make progress. Else, if one is considering things from a complicated point or a convoluted framework, then progress is very difficult.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this clarification. Gregory, if I can say, I'm going to put myself on mute when you speak, and if you can put yourself on mute when I speak. Apparently there's some echo, so just want to remove that echo. So now, Gregory, I want to understand this concept of simplicity. In simplicity lies greatness in the conceptual way, so that we have a clear idea about it, and because that's the reason why we do the definitions of the words in the topic, so that people or everybody really is on the same page, you can say, and we are clear what we are talking about. And you've talked about this like a uniform, a unity of approach, I will say that way, of seeing these things. So if and how people are thinking sometimes, complicated means you're somehow cleverer. I don't know if that's what is exactly people are thinking, and that's why they'll say something complicated is greater than something that is simple. So maybe people are thinking like this, and then they're not, they're talking on, it's like people are talking on different lines, and of course you will never get the right answer or concept with that. So we must try to make sure we are clear about this matter. Okay, so Gregory, let me look at another concept about this. So, as we grow older and, learn things, from childhood to adulthood, obviously, in theory, we should be getting better in whatever we have learned. So I was wondering, you may have said it in your previous answer, but when we say something is complicated or complex, let's say, which we learn as an adult, and it's like you're going through a challenge, and a child, let's say, would not be able to handle let's say, a challenge that maybe an adult may have to deal with because of their experience or because of ability. So I'm wondering, if people don't compare like with like, they will come to different answers. So I just want to get clarity, Gregory, about complexity and simplicity. Is there something wrong with complexity, or is just because people would then say, complexity is not greatness. So I'm just trying to get that understanding, Gregory. So is there something wrong with complexity in comparison to simplicity?
There is nothing wrong with complexity. The challenge has always been, with complexity, you have a union of many different parts. And for some, it is difficult to have a bird's eye view of the different parts. Therein lies the complexity, because they are unable to comprehend it. Generally, when one considers a human personality, one is granted the five senses. And these five senses stand on their own, and they convey information in different dimensions. The dimension of sight, the dimension of smell, the dimension of taste, and the dimension of, say, sound. So when you consider these are the five senses that the human personality uses to identify things. So you may have a scenario where you see something and you may find another thing almost equivalent in your sight, but the taste of that may be different. The smell of that may be different. So using our five senses, we're able to identify when it comes to more than one. It goes to two, becomes three, becomes four. Then there is the challenge of using your five senses to identify a group of objects or an object that has many different parts, and yet you only have your five senses to use to identify it. Because that object may change its shape. So from your sight, it has changed. You may say this is different. That object may sound differently, yet it's the same object. So it becomes, the complexity increases. Whereas when simplicity is mentioned, it calls for the ability to identify with an object using one's abilities of the five senses. Anything more than that becomes complicated because you cannot, use the word, easily identify this particular object.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer. Okay, just you can put yourself on mute because I'm hearing it echo from me, from my side. So thank you. So I've got now getting this picture now that we have these five senses, and it's like you know, if you want to do something, you have to use the right tool for that job that you're working on. So sometimes you need, let's say, your eyes, and probably you need more than one sense at a time, but let's say you need to make it clear for us, you have to use the right tool for the job, as they say. So you use one of your senses which is appropriate for that job that you're trying to do. And you mentioned earlier when we talked about complexity that there's a union there, or you could say different elements. So you could say in one particular job, you might need to use a few of your senses together. So that will be a union of the senses working together. So this, when you think of it this way, it is simple still. There's a simplicity there. You just have to use the right tool for the job, as they say. In other words, the right sense for that job that you're doing, or whatever work you're working on. So okay. Now, Gregory, we are spiritual beings, or at least in our past shows we have identified ourselves as spiritual beings. So I guess there must be a spiritual sense as well. The five senses that we have mentioned, they're applying to the, how can I say, our earthly abilities. But then we also have this spiritual side of us human beings. So is there another sense, like they say, sixth sense for the spiritual ability?
No, there is no sixth sense. It is the same five senses that the human personality uses. What many refer to as the sixth sense is the intuition, which, strictly speaking, is not a sixth sense, but only an impression which is used to either pass information from one's spirit, that means from the inner core of man, to the senses, or to take impressions from the senses back to the spirit. The spirit retains all these senses. However, the senses which the spirit uses are peculiar to the realm. So here on earth, the human personality identifies with the earthly senses. When the human personality departs and drops this outer covering, then the senses which the soul harbors come into function. That means the same senses, but now not the earthly senses, but that which is, one wouldn't say finer, but senses which are peculiar. The sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell. But these are done internally, not externally. Until when the personality gets back home to paradise, it's also able to use the senses. But this time, it will be the spiritual equivalent of the senses that one has here. So one is able to smell, is able to see, is able to taste, but all these senses are internal.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer and picture that you've painted there. We're going to look at that a bit further in a moment. I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. Today we started a little late, actually, 6:45 p.m. So we'll be running till 8:45 p.m. tonight. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we are discussing tonight is In Simplicity Lies Greatness. In simplicity lies greatness. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 645 958. Sorry, I'm going to repeat that. I think I made an error in my saying that number. So that is, if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 7939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's another way you can contact us, which is by the chat box, which is on the website where we are broadcasting. And the website is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down the homepage, you will see a box called Bless Chat, and you can send in any questions or comments through there. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, space live stream. That's for the live show, which is on Tuesday evenings, usually from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. And you can also listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number one, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is In Simplicity Lies Greatness. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number one again. Now, Gregory, so far we have been looking at our senses. We have the five senses, the earthly senses, you can say, the physical senses. I'm going to forget one of them, but I will say it. Sound, touch, smell, hearing. Is that right? I think sound can be speech. So then there's hearing. And Gregory, I know I missed one. Can you help me there?
Smell.
Smell, I said smell, but people do know them, so I hope it's not a problem. So those are the five physical senses, even if I've forgotten one of them. And then there is another sense, which we call the intuition or intuitive perception, which is connected with the spirit. So the five physical senses are with our body on the earth that we have, and then we have this intuition or intuitive perception, which is connected to the spirit. So that, and these are all our abilities to be able to function as a human being. And you might be wondering, oh, what's that got to do with simplicity? Well, Gregory, you mentioned it already, that really you have to use those senses in the way, sort of, you could say, how they're designed. So if you're listening, that's what the ear is for, and that's how. So you can't see with the ear. So I know that sounds silly in a way, but it's logic and it's clarity provided there. And yet you have all these senses. So obviously it should be clear there that you can use all the senses, but they just must operate, the way that you could say designed. And obviously, if we are to function, you can say, at the optimum level. Now, so Gregory, so there's another one, as I said, intuition, which is this, you could call it the voice of our spirit, but that is not physical. So Gregory, when we receive, you could say, religious or spiritual teachings, and let's say, and we try to understand the certain concepts given there. For example, the kingdom of heaven that Jesus mentioned, and in other places as well, not only in the Bible, but other places also, or and then we try to, how can I say, understand it, and then, are we meant to get this, let's say, understanding right? Should we be using only the spiritual sense when it's the spiritual words, or should we also try to use the other 5 earthly senses to understand it?
The senses, the earthly so-called senses, are only tools to absorb external impressions. So there are the 5 channels that you use to absorb external impressions. These are the 5 senses here that one uses, which are tied to the physical body. These external impressions should be passed on to the frontal brain. From the frontal brain, it should have an impact on the back brain. And from the back brain, it is then mediated to the real human personality, which is of spirit. The intuition is the channel. And also to consider it from the spirit has a perception, which perception is passed on to the back brain. From the back brain, it has an impact on the frontal brain, and subsequently there are activities. It could be a visual activity that has to be carried out, or one is able to some extent to perceive of some smell, or to hear something. Yet that hearing doesn't seem to come from the outside. So that is the connection. With that connection, man is able to use experiences it has gathered. Experiences it has gathered from past earth life, from the time it set out from its origin as a human spirit germ, is able to use these experiences, which experiences led it to some form of maturity or some form of consciousness, and subsequently it becomes self-conscious. It means, therefore, the abilities of the spirit are being cultivated right. That means you now have the scenario where the back brain and the frontal brain work harmoniously. If, however, in their workings it is not harmonious, then you have the scenario in which the world now finds itself, where the spirits of the human personality is unable to express itself appropriately. It's unable to express itself because the external impressions clog the way. So it's so tied to earthly things, which earthly things most of the time are of little or no value to the spirit. So that's the scenario which we have. And one cannot say, oh, the intuition is this sense or that sense. The intuition is holistic. For when it strikes the back brain and is transmitted aright, these impressions may have some visual effect, may have some audible effect, may have some impression of taste in our mouth, may have some form of smell in our nose, but these smells did not come from the outside, they came from the inside. So the intuition in its operation is holistic.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this explanation, of how the intuition works and being sort of all encompassing, if I can say, or let's say having a wider outlook than the other 5 senses of the earthly senses, which are working in like only in a particular field, you can say. So there's quite a difference there. And sometimes you could say the intuition, it can see spiritually, it can hear, it can, all those 5 senses, smell, all those earthly senses can be combined as one into the spiritual, but not in the sense of the earthly way, but the spiritual way. So sensing it in a spiritual way. So I hope that's not too confusing, because obviously I think what we require also is what is the difference between earthly and spiritual, so that people are clear there's a difference. So Gregory, can you help with that? What are, if you can just give clarity about, what is the difference between earthly and the spiritual, you could say, worlds and activity, in regards to us human beings?
What many a personality perceives here on earth are only slight replicas, which replicas have manifested in the earthly. Now, one should know that that which is spiritual is a species of its own, different from the species of matter. And man on earth lives in very dense matter, which one may call gross matter. The vibrations of matter are much, much slower than the vibrations of the spiritual. So they never coalesce, but they stand on their own differently. So what you will have, some of the capabilities of the spirit are not mirrored to the capabilities of the earthly. A very simple example would be if you wish to travel from one place here to another place, you would look for some form of transport to take you there. Either you're riding a camel or a horse or a car or riding a bicycle. That is what it is here on earth. In the spiritual, the impression to travel to another place is almost instantaneous. So the impression strikes and the personality is there. So one can see that in the spiritual, the will and the deed are one. Whereas here on earth, willing to travel doesn't mean all of a sudden you have traveled there. It still goes through a long process before you get to where you need to get to. So the rates of experiencing in the spiritual, because the spiritual vibrations are much, much, much faster than the vibrations in gross matter, you find that the rate of experiencing there in the spiritual is much faster than the rate of experiencing here on earth. In such a way that 1,000 Earth years is as one day in the spiritual. So you find that the spiritual experiencing is much, much enriched as compared to what you have in the earthly.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. And again, the picture you're painting. Listeners, as you can see, we are really going, you could say, exploring the sphere or the world of the earthly and the spiritual in our, in this topic that we're discussing. And at this moment, it may not be clear for you why we are doing that, but it's necessary in a way to be aware of all these abilities and the spheres that we work in, so that when we look at our life and try to understand what's happening in our life or even other people's life, we don't look at it in just sort of, I was going to say one way, but maybe I could say it, let's say black and white, when the picture is actually color. I know it's not exactly the perfect way to put it, but because we act on according to what we know. So if that picture is a narrow picture of what the reality is, then of course we are not going to be able to see that big picture that we need to see, so that we can make, you could say, right decisions or act in the situation that we're dealing with. So, but I will come to this simplicity. In simplicity lies greatness. Now, Gregory, I want to talk about, let's say, the human life on this earth, whether that, so we look at some scenario and see if this is simplicity or it's not simplicity. So, or in a way, it's something that's supposed to be this way, or successful or not successful. So, one example I want to look at, Gregory, is we have you could say, in life, we have competition in human life, where you can talk it in sport, in science. It might not sound obvious in science, but business and so on, in industry and so on. There are different companies, different organizations, different peoples, let's say, producing or researching in particular fields. And for you to succeed, there seems to be competition. It could be in terms of excellence in what they're producing, or it could be price, and so on. And what I'm going to point to there, Gregory, is there's people or nations or businesses that turn out to be successful, meaning they become winners, and there's others who do not, and they become losers. That's a thing. So what I want to ask on that point is, is that, let's say, a good model for success, where there are winners and losers in this way, or it should be some other way, because, which might be, people think of cooperation as another way to, be successful. So what I'm asking, Gregory, is it like natural way to have competition and, compete with each other to become successful, or it's not a good way?
To reflect on your questions correctly, one must take some examples. The human personality has got talents. And when one considers that the human personality has got talents, and there are varied ways of expressing their talents, then it becomes important to permit these human personalities to express their talents. Whether this expression comes in form of competition or of cooperation, it amounts to the same thing, because there is continuous improvement. Else you may find that in some cases, some people will say, oh, there's no need to improve on this anymore. One may consider that before the advent of cars, people were riding horses. They were self-satisfied. They were riding camels. They were using canoes to move from one place to the other. They had competition. They improved on those things they were using. Then came the advent of the bicycle. Means there were some in their talents who decided to move further, who did not need to go into breeding horses or breeding camels, but to search for other ways. And they came up with a bicycle. Some subsequently, the same happened until they had these so-called steam engines. There will be competition, there will be cooperation. Subsequently, they had the motor car. There will be competition, there will be cooperation. And as time went on, they had the airplane. Of course, those who started the airplane built it very simply the way they understood it. Others followed by improving on that which they have now found. In following that, people went different ways. There were some who came together to compete. There were some who came together to cooperate. But each personality is granted the ability to explore in his or her way. So it would be wrong to find errors in that type of dynamic competition. Dynamic in the continuous improvement. But that does not mean they should now destroy themselves over it. It is healthy competition when people come together and try to deal with a challenge in different ways. Because the competing person must have a different point of view from the others. And the goal is, however, to improve upon that which is available. So many should welcome the opportunity for continuous improvement and not see it as being cruel.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. Why I ask about these things is, let's say, business, research, advancement in science and so on, or whatever. Like you say, people have talents and they're developing their talents and expressing their talents. And yes, there are competitions, and then there's even cooperation. And but we are human beings, not machine, and so it's not about, somebody produce so many, let's say, square meters or whatever measure that somebody might want to use in a particular time frame as an output. There's also the human aspect of morality, this, you could say, fairness, and so people are not using or abusing people's sort of capabilities. Obviously, when you work, you are better when you are fresh than when you are overworked. And sometimes we know in business people are overworked because of the competition expectations, targets and so on. And so this is where I was wanting to explore that angle, that if the goal is only about achieving a certain output and with a certain amount of money, then obviously, and then there's a competition trying to do the same thing like you, then of course it will be quite tough for the the humanitarian aspect of the, because we are not just a physical body and machine, we are a human personality, as you say. So all these aspects of the human functions must be all taken as a balance, not one-sided. So this is a consideration that I wanted to look at, really. So maybe I will ask a question on that. So is there, how can I say, Gregory, not philosophy, but some, because you've said it many times in our previous shows, all for one and one for all. And when you think of that, you don't try to, in competition, you're trying to beat the other person, and then, but it should be like fair, as they say, not, how can I say, unfair. I don't know how to put it any other way at the moment. So, is there some, how can I put it, some code or some way we can assess when we go about a task that we do it, which is beneficial for all, rather than at an expense of one aspect of the human being, or expense of a fellow human being even. So, and that's, I'm just saying, how can we assess that when we call something success, it should be success in all departments, not in few departments.
It's important to consider that there is a musical ensemble. In that musical ensemble, in which there are different parts, there are some who play the guitar, some play the violin, some even sing, to encourage one another. There are competitions to ensure that in that one for all and all for one, that the human personality does not go to sleep. Because it is very common when there is no external challenge, the personality, in having no external challenge, goes to sleep. That is dangerous for the body. That is dangerous for the spirit. So you will have, in the so-called competition or cooperation, there are people who can compose music in one way and another in another way. And yet, the pieces of music composed is very helpful, produces joy. So one should not say, oh, there should be no competition, there should be cooperation. There is no need for that in the case of music or in the case of the arts. In the case of the arts, people, like in fine art, people go about on their own to produce a work of art. Do they go about with others and say, let me cooperate with you? Each individual should retain his or her originality and should express it. There are some who may wish to compare one's originality with another person's originality. Then that is their business. The same thing happens in business. There are some who, in the way they do things, because they live in different countries, and in the case of agriculture, they have different soils, and they have to experiment. In this experimentation, they have results, and they are able to predict, to some extent, the quality of the soil. Would you now say that they should cooperate with others, and therefore they should not produce something in their soil? Just as we have different soils, so there are also different human abilities. It is incumbent on the personality to express himself or herself one way or the other. The talk of the businesses where they say, oh, let us cooperate. Then you ask, what is the framework for cooperation? Some may say one for all and all for one. That is a possibility. But also, there's a possibility people may go their own way to express themselves. That is a natural given right to express themselves, to break away from the mold. So that does not mean that there are not persons who abuse the true concept. There are many. But to remove the competition because one does not wish to move, that will not be right. Of course, there are unhealthy competition in which from one side one tries to destroy the other. If one strives to destroy the other, then the question now becomes, what happens? Whom are you now going to fight with when you have killed the other people out? All right? So you find in the case, like has been tried in the case of communism, of all sort of things, it didn't work very simply because the human personality or a group of human personalities must express themselves. So you will find in different cultures, they have different cultures.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer there. What I can see from what you've said there, there are people which are individual talents and they express and develop in that. Then there's people or businesses, whatever, come together and let's think of, let's say, people who are growing wine and they have their own farm or vineyard, rather, to grow that wine. And then they need to bottle it and so on. So they may need to have another business to cooperate with them for that. So basically, that's where you can work together and work together with individual different talents coming together, so it's not a competition in that way. Competition can be another way, like you mentioned, with different businesses and so on. And it's healthy competition so that everybody is, progressing rather than just keep making the same thing over and over, so keeping everybody fresh, you can say. So, yes. So when you see the big picture is what we are trying to do now in this show, then things make sense, and you can say, yes, this is fine, this is good. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, I just want to let you know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is In Simplicity Lies Greatness. In simplicity lies greatness. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 07939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And you can also contact us through the website where we are broadcasting, which is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you go down on the home page, scroll down, you will see a box called Bless Chat. You can write any messages of questions or comments in there. And we are, as I said, we are broadcasting on blessradio1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space live stream. That's for our live show. We started late tonight at 6:45 p.m. and we'll be finishing at 8:15. So it's about 20 minutes time. And also you can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube the next day. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is In Simplicity Lies Greatness. And of course, you can listen to the recordings of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM /Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I wanted to look at, we say simplicity, in simplicity lies greatness. And what I'm thinking of, nature, you see beauty there with flowers, plants, landscapes, and so on. And then man or humanity tries to produce their own, you could say, structures, artificial structures. You could say most of the time we don't seem to be able to match what nature produces, you could say in terms of beauty or even simplicity. But then we have produced some, you could say, wonders of the world, pyramids. These are the famous 7 wonders of the world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Unfortunately, only the pyramids have been left now. The other 6 have gone. Over time somehow they didn't last. But they were beautiful. What was created, and now there's, you could say, even modern versions of these 7 wonders like Taj Mahal and so on. So my question on this is, Gregory, that can human beings really, you could say, are we supposed to try and sort of reproduce what nature does, or maybe we should work with, use what nature produces and sort of mold it, if I can use that word, in a way that is, like a human. Artistic, with, some sort of thing that looks beautiful, maybe not exactly, as I say, matching the nature, but somehow a human sort of version of the beauty of using the nature, whatever materials that we have. So, yeah.
First, one must consider the way human personalities learn and learn to experience. What is paramount, first, as a child, is that which it perceives as already given, as existing. Therefore, the personality, even as a child, first learns the language that is associated with what he or she is capable of perceiving. That is what nature has already granted. albeit the human body, which it uses, the breathing in and breathing out, the eyes to see, these are given. Therefore, it's necessary to become conversant with these. Only when that has happened is the personality in a position to enhance, just as you have, like in so-called astronomy, you can see with your bare eyes. You can see the moon, you can see the sun, you can see many things. But also, you may improve on that which already exists. That means you can have binoculars. Same thing happens with transportation. Of course, that which nature has granted the human personality, that ability to move from one place to the other, to walk. Of course, you start with walking. Then you may start running. Then you might start saying, okay, I want to use a bicycle or a motorcycle or a car. These are human inventions. But before the human personality got there, they had to use that which has been granted, just as they had to use that which has been granted to them in a matter which is well known to them, the physical body. So you use what you have and then improve on it to get what you may need. You cannot use what you do not have, what nature has not provided you, to get what you need. You must start from somewhere. And the elements that the human personality needs are already in nature, in creation. In doing that, that is improvement. That is why the human personality had to start as an unconscious spirit gem. The first step to self-consciousness is consciousness of the environment in which it is. That is given. It does not jump to self-consciousness just like that. Having experienced the environment, then the possibility exists to find out what lies behind this environment. How does it come into existence? How do I play? Or how do I associate with this environment? What will be my inputs? Then, in that way, that is a further step towards self-consciousness. So it's not that one should say, oh, nature has given this and therefore I shouldn't do ABC. One must investigate. That is an intrinsic feature of the human personality, to investigate further, first, while it is here on earth. What are the tasks? It needs to investigate that, else its existence, its earth life becomes of no benefit to it.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. Picture again. Another thing I'm thinking about, You know, we have laws to, you could say, run society, and every country has laws, and we, different countries, sometimes there's some differences in these laws, and people, let's say, try to follow them, of course, and then many times they might feel it's unfair, certain laws. Um, um, because maybe their rights are being stopped, or it doesn't make sense to some people why this law is there. So when there are these inconsistencies, or let's say disagreement about such laws and things, which of course have been set up by human beings, and as I say, some of them, I'm not giving any example of anything specific at this moment, but it could be like real injustice for some people. You might think that this is somewhere, especially when there's inconsistencies in different countries. So when this is the case, Gregory, how should is basically my question really is, how can we human beings have a foundation when we set up these systems? Is it because the people who set up the system is it for their, how can I say, maybe it could be a different culture. So the difference is when and where people disagree with particular things, as I say, they think it might be injustice. Could it be, Gregory, due to some cultural thinking, or because we are talking about simplicity lies in in simplicity lies greatness, and when people think differently, or or something like that, people might get upset on these things. So how can we go about, when to have this simplicity in these laws? Because it seems that we human beings, go different. Each one has a different understanding and different thinking, and it's like inevitable that they will come up with different systems. So are we meant to have a uniform sort of law in simplicity, or maybe there's meant to be this, you could say, variety of these laws in different places?
It is easy to examine the workings in nature, the workings in creation, and before long to understand that the laws are basically the same. However, the human personalities who weave within these laws of creation, through which they also came into existence, they do it differently. And because they do it differently, they do it based on their immediate views, which views may improve in future. So from that framework, one can already see that the laws, which are very simple, these laws are based in motion. Motion, which is a law in creation. So you have different people weaving differently, but in their weavings, they should not allow their weavings to impact negatively on others, just like others should not allow their weavings to impact negatively on you yourself. In that case, the weavings, when considered as a whole, are refreshing, just as you have in music, just as you have in agriculture. Someone plays this piece of music, and then you have a farmer who cultivates the soil. The person who composes the music needs to eat. Or is it expected that he should spend all the time in the farm? What time will he then have, he or she, to compose the music? So people have different skills. However, these skills should be supporting one another in variety. Harmony is not just one tone. Harmony is a variety of tones which is beneficial to the individual. So you cannot say at the beginning that you only eat bread. After some time, you want to eat some other thing because this is intrinsic. There is a need to investigate and try things out. But to say others shouldn't develop in their way because you want cooperation, that is very unhealthy.
Thank you very much, Gregory. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight. We started late, I'm afraid, and we have gone on beyond our normal time, 8 o'clock, 8:15 almost now, and we decided we won't continue further at this moment for tonight. So I'd like to end the show by reading, like I like to do every show, from the Grail Message. It is from the foreword, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this in the form of ready-made opinions of others only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God, Abdrushin. Dear listeners, if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, would you like to say anything to say goodbye to the listeners?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week.
Thank you. Yes, listeners, same from me. We'll be back next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Take care. Have a great week. Good night and God bless.